it going? Alright, so the last video I did on the multimeters was quite well received, and a few of you guys actually requested maybe I do some more of these. So I thought this time what we'd look at is well, soldering irons and with heat, basically, things that need a bit of heating. So especially since over here it's winter now, so it's kind of cold. So doing this, it's yeah, nice and toasty. It's really good. So what we're going to do is, again, these tutorials are they're just an overview for beginners, guys that are just starting out, need a few pointers and questions I kind of get asked quite commonly. So more advanced guys probably not going to be so interested in this video, but yeah, there's the odd little thing I'm going to try and chuck in. Hey, you never know, you might learn something new. But like with the last video, I'm not going to go on about where soldering irons or hot glue guns or whatever came from or when they were invented, just some down-to-earth practical uses for them and a few little tips to go along the way. Now, in all my mod videos you've always seen me using this soldering iron, okay, and this is a temperature controlled iron. Now these are, in the scheme of soldering irons, they're kind of the more expensive option. I mean, this particular one is a cheapie. It's really not very expensive, but for a lot of you guys out there, you maybe have one or two consoles, you're not ever going to do a lot of soldering, so justifying the cost on this, yeah, it's just not really there. So instead, what a lot of people do is they have these ones, so a soldering iron on a wire sort of thing. And these are really cheap. These are about, what, anywhere between $10 to $20, really not very expensive. And I've had a few guys write in and say, oh, well, one of these is all I've got. I probably can't do the mod, but you can. There's just a few little tricks to it is all, just to make your life a little bit easier. There's certainly, well, in fact, for many years this is all I used. It's only in recent times that I've actually gone and grabbed myself a temperature controlled iron. Something else I hear a lot is that these don't get very hot, and so they're quite difficult to solder with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this out of the way and I'm going to show you that you can use these. Okay, so the first little tip I'm going to give you is when you're working with one of these sort of soldering irons, one thing they don't have that the temperature controlled station type ones have is they don't have anywhere to actually clean the iron. So what you can do is go and grab yourself one of these sponges. See, it's quite hard at the moment, and you use these for cleaning up bench tops and things like that. And you'll see I've cut a little square out because that's actually sitting in my iron, a temperature control one at the moment. But so go and grab yourself one of these and basically a little dish. Sit it in there and apply a bit of water to it. And what that'll do is it'll make this damp, and you can actually use it to clean your iron. So what I'll do is I'll get a dish and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so I've just got a little wee dish here, and all I'm going to do is just apply some water to the sponge, and you'll see how it sort of blows up and absorbs the water. Now you don't need tons, you don't want this absolutely swimming, you just want it to absorb a bit. Now the idea with this is as you're soldering, you'll find that you get a lot of excess solder and bits of rubbish sitting on the end of your tip, and it'll actually sort of get in the way of doing your soldering. So what you can do is just quickly give it a little wee wipe, and that gets any rubbish off. Now don't use these when you're finished doing your soldering. Don't use this to cool your iron down. Always let the soldering irons cool down naturally. But yeah, just a little tip, so you can just sort of have this sort of sitting out of the way, but still handy, so that way as you're soldering, if you start to get a real build-up of just excess solder and that, you can just quickly give it a quick wipe like that and you're good to go. And something else to think about with these, and it's probably more of a safety tip, I mean, as you're all going to know, this is the hot end, and with these soldering irons that are just on a wire like this, they kind of float around the bench. There's not really anywhere sort of convenient to put them, so just be very careful of them. Don't let them wander off and touch the side of your console, and more importantly, don't let them touch you. I've seen, yeah, don't leave these unattended. But speaking of leaving them, now here, this is one thing that I've kind of noticed a lot. A lot of guys will say that if they don't have a temperature controlled iron, these little irons really, they just don't get hot enough. But The biggest tip I can actually give you with that is these do get very hot. They're definitely more than capable of doing the job. The trick with them is to plug them in and leave them on for a while first. Actually let them heat up, because these do take a little while to get up to full temperature. And sometimes I've seen people, you know, when they're in a bit of a hurry, they quickly want to get something soldered and they're quickly tapping away at it. Come on, come on, come on, trying to get it to go. You know, just what you're best to do is turn this on, leave it somewhere safe. Don't wander completely out of the house, but you know, if it's got somewhere safe, go away for 5 minutes, have a drink, you know, get the rest of your gear prepared, and just let this get up to temperature first. And then once it is, you'll find it'll actually work really well. So one tip I can give you with soldering is, what some people do is they put the solder onto the iron and then they go and try and apply it to the job. Okay? It's really not a very good way to do it. What you're instead much better to do is actually put the iron to where you want to solder and heat the area up, and then add solder to the area. I suppose the short version of that is add solder to the job, not to the iron. So if I want to solder this point here, I put it on, and on goes my solder. And I'll just do another one just over here. So heat it up from iron, and hopefully you guys can see, but if you watch this solder here, instantly it gets a shine to it. Straight away the heat's applied. So this is like a 15 watt iron, and the only thing I've done is leave it running for about, I think it was about 15 minutes before I actually wanted to use it, to let it get right up to temperature. And you can see that it is soldering just as quick as my temperature controlled iron. So definitely guys, if you have one of these, don't be discouraged. They're still perfectly good. You can definitely use one of these. Okay, so the next item on the list is just a little, this is a kind of a novelty item. Now, you would have seen me use this in in just about all my videos to heat up heat shrink. So this is a little butane torch. Okay, so when I click it down, you can see this little blue flame comes out, and if you've got yourself some heat shrink, you hold it a little bit back and just gently, and see how it's just melting in there. Now I'm a little bit sidetracked here because these are something that, like I say, they're an accessory. They're cheap and they're handy. You don't have to have these for modding at all, but you know, like as I said, I'd like to show you the odd little different thing as well. So like I say, we just click the button down and out comes heat. Simple as that. Now, what you've got to be careful of with these obviously is that this is spitting fire out the end of it, so you don't want to go put it near your circuit board or your hands or anything you really care about, because it will burn it instantly. Yeah, they can be nasty. But the thing with the likes of heat shrink in there is, because they kick out a fair bit of heat, like I say, it's only got to be an approximation. It's only got to sort of be near it. So if I turn it on and I just sort of wave it over, you can see how the heat shrink is just responding to it. Now, you can actually use these for soldering as well, which is actually one of the main reasons I have them. So I'll give you an example. Sometimes, and like I say, I am a bit sidetracked here, so bear with me guys. Sometimes if you're out in a field and you, not literally a field, not a paddock, but you know, out, and you find a broken wire somewhere along the way. Now, carrying a soldering iron with you, you can get little gas ones now, which is quite awesome, but they're kind of expensive, and little battery powered ones, again, very cool, but kind of expensive. And sometimes you just need a very quick way of soldering something up. So here's what we do. We get a little bit of heat shrink like this, and we just slip it over one of the wires. Okay, nice and easy. Okay, so I'm just going to twist my wire up just so it holds together already. This is, like I say, it's kind of easy, makes it a little bit easier to do if you don't have any hands. And same principle as using a soldering iron. You want to apply heat to the job and apply your solder to the job. So I apply some heat to the wire, and then just like that, soldered. Really, really quick, really handy. Takes a little bit of practice, because to begin with, so you know, get some scrap wire if you actually want to have a go at this, but takes a little bit of practice because to begin with you'll just melt everything. But yeah, once you get the hang of it, really cool, very handy. Alright guys, we'll move on. Okay, so the other thing I get asked about quite commonly is my hot glue gun. A lot of guys have said that, you know, in my videos the glue seems to come out very fast and, you know, seems to be very hot. And I want to know if I'm using, you know, if my hot glue gun is anything special. And again guys, I like to keep it affordable. This hot glue gun is the cheapest one I could buy, and I've had it for many years, so again it's kind of old and kind of tired. Now the biggest trick with hot glue guns, and it's actually the same as the little soldering irons on a wire there, you've got to give them a good amount of time to heat. In particular, hot glue guns, they seem to take ages to get to the point where they're really hot. And that's what I do, is when I decide I'm going to do a video on modding and I'm going to need some hot glue to, you know, insulate some things, or even hold them in place, what I do is when I come into work, this is actually the first thing I turn on. Okay, so I just pull the trigger, and you see it's just pouring out. And the trick with that is simply because I've left it running for ages and I've let it get really hot. And with hot glue, again, let it dry naturally. So just leave it. Some people blow on it and all that, but it just the end result of that is it doesn't actually stick to the area very well. The amount of heat that's in that glue, it actually warms up the area and it ends up gelling really nicely. And if you leave these running for ages so that, you know, nice and hot, you'll find that they'll flow around your solder joints and that just so much nicer. And you'll see, if you actually watch closely in some of my videos, you'll see that when I go to put hot glue on, it's shaking a lot, making a creaking noise, and it's really not coming out very much. And that's usually if I've actually forgotten to turn this on first and I haven't let it get up to temperature. And to be honest, you feel kind of like you're trying to squeeze a watermelon through a straw, like you're really pulling on the trigger and it's just not happening. So patience is the biggest trick with these. Get them up to temperature, like even to touch the side of it, it's hot, okay? So, and the glue just pours out so much easier. Look after the tip on your soldering iron, whether it be a cheap one or a slightly more expensive one, or even if you've got a very flash one, the tip, look after it. They are replaceable, yes, but if you look after it, it's going to last you that much longer, you know. And so be careful try not to get any nicks or scratches in the end of it, so don't go banging it around on things. Also, when you finish soldering, give them a quick wipe on a wet sponge or something, just to get some of the excess solder off and let them cool naturally. Don't melt plastic with them, and if you do, as soon as you've melted the plastic, again, grab your sponge out, get the plastic off it so it's nice and shiny again. And you'll notice when I was giving it a clean, it was just a quick strike, because I don't want to lose too much heat, I just want to quickly rub the excess off. Speaking of rubbing, one last tip with these. Something I've seen a lot of people do when they're using a soldering iron is if they haven't get up to heat enough, or it's a heavy, like a heavy ground plane or something that actually needs a lot of heat to solder, what they'll do is they'll start pressing on the end of the iron, like they'll really start applying force, because it's a strange psychology that I guess we all have, where if it's not getting hot, you tend to want to press on it more and try and get the heat in there that bit easier. But to be honest guys, if you do that, all you're going to end up doing is damaging what you're working on and bending the tip of your iron. And I know it probably sounds silly, but the thing is I have seen it done, and when the end of your soldering iron is very, very hot, you'll be amazed at how quickly it will actually start getting a bit of a bend in it, and straightening them can be a bit of a nightmare. Sometimes they can just snap. So if you're finding that the heat isn't going in as fast as you'd like it, again, just be patient. Just keep light pressure on it and just keep it just sitting there. You'll notice everything I do when I'm doing the mod videos and that is very quick soldering, and that comes with experience. Don't feel bad if you've got to, just give it a bit more heat just to get that solder to flow nicely. I mean, at the end of the day, if the solder isn't flowing that nicely, and it isn't quite hot enough, then you do have a bit more time. You're not cooking the components that quick, and they are durable to a degree. You'll find most electronic items will stand temperatures of 200-300 degrees for probably 2 or 3 seconds, and 2 or 3 seconds sounds quite short, but believe me, when you're holding it on there, it's quite a while. So don't be afraid to just take it off, have a breather, try it again. Patience is the key with just about all of this. And of course, as part of the recap, these are quite cool. I like them. Very handy for heating your heat shrink. Now, if you haven't used heat shrink before, and you don't have one of these or don't want to buy one, fair enough. The other way you could do it is just using the barrel of your soldering iron. You just lightly rub it across and you'll find that the heat shrink will start going down, and you just got to work your way around it a bit, and yeah, it'll just start melting down. The other thing I get asked about a lot is just what cable do I use. So very quickly, you'll certainly be familiar with seeing the colours, but what this cable actually is this is how it comes. I'll just zoom out a little bit here just so you can see. Right, this is what's called 4-core cable. Now the wire is 0.2mm wire, and 4-core cable is mostly used in the security industry. It's used for wiring up sensors and alarm panels and sirens and things like that. So, and the cool thing with this is it comes like this, and this is an outer sheath which you can pick off, and you'll see why it's called 4-core, because it has 4 separate wires inside it. And the cool thing with this stuff is that you've got colours like red and black, and I've got blue and white. You can also get 6-core and 8-core and all sorts of different ones. Being 0.2mm makes it just about the right size for modding most of the consoles. It's not as thin as Kynar wire, which is you kind of need if you're going to get into working on very, very fine points like PlayStation 2s and things like that. But on all your Mega Drives and Super Nintendos, this is what I use. The cool thing too with security cable is it's actually cheap, and for 100 meters of it, you might, well, your 100 meters you'd probably pay about $40 or $50. This is New Zealand dollars, by the way, so in America it'd probably be 20 bucks or something for 100 meters. And 100 meters is, well, it's 100 meters. You're never going to use that working on a console. So what you could perhaps do is, if you've got someone who installs alarm systems in your town, maybe an electrician or a dedicated alarm installer, go along and ask them and say, hey, would you guys have a couple of meters of 4-core that I could buy off you? And I don't know, throw them $2 or $3, walk out with 2 or 3 meters of this and have enough wire to last you many, many consoles. So alright guys, yeah, I really hope this is sort of helping some of the beginners out there. Please comment, rate, let me know what you think. Is there something you'd like to know more about? Is there something I haven't covered that you'd like to see me cover? Look, any questions, any feedback, I really appreciate it, guys. I love hearing from you. So thanks very much for watching. As always, you'll see me again very soon, and yeah, I look forward to hearing from you soon. So thanks guys, we'll see you around.